Hi friends, Mr. Ben here, and today for Science Explorers, we're going to talk about scientific observation. And the scientific observation that we're going to make today is with birds. So an observation is when you watch something in order to learn more about it. And with it being winter, there's not a lot of animals that we can see, but birds are pretty readily available. All you have to do is encourage them to come to you, and the best way to do that is by feeding them. All right? So the first thing that you want to do is you want to make yourself a bird feeder in order to bring them in. So the traditional way to make a bird feeder is to use a cone of sorts and to cover it with stuff that the birds like to eat and then hang it up outside. But the cones that I currently have are not so great, and you might not be able to find any because they're buried under the snow. So another thing that you can do is you can take a toilet paper roll and you can attach a string to it and you can use that instead. Now obviously the birds aren't interested in the toilet paper roll itself, so we've got to put something on it that they're actually going to like. And in order to do that, we're going to use shortening. Okay? Now a lot of people like to use peanut butter, but I also know that a lot of people are allergic to peanut butter and some other nut butters, so you can use a different kind of butter, but we're going to use shortening because as far as I know, I don't think anybody's allergic to shortening, so that's a safe bet. So the first thing you have to do is you've got to coat the outside of whatever it is that you're going to hang up with some of our shortening. So put some on here. Now we're spreading it out. You can see I'm using a stick like this, okay, to spread it around like that. And you want to get a good amount on there so it's really sticky. So I'm just going to do half of this for the sake of time, but you're going to want to cover your whole thing so that the birds can really get to it. All right. So now that I have mine halfway coated right there, okay. All right, now I need the food. So in this case, I'm going to use oats, all right? But, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this afterwards, you're going to want to try other things. So first, let's get these oats on here. So what I'll do is I'll open up my bin, and you're going to want to separate whatever, especially if it's food that you eat, you're going to want to separate that out, just so it doesn't get all kind of gross with the shortening. And we'll just roll that in there and kind of press it down. All right, get it nice and coated. And then you can see that now my toilet paper roll is covered with some food for our bird friends. Okay? So the next part of making our observation is to hang this up outside and spend time looking at them. Now, if you want to observe birds, you got to know when to do that. The best time is early morning. That's when they're the most active in looking for food. But if you can't make it in the morning, you can also try like late afternoon just before the sun sets, but early morning is the best, okay? So we're going to observe and record which birds like which food. So right here I only have oats, but you're going to want to try other things like sunflower seeds and many different kinds of seeds and see which birds come to which food, because maybe you want to look at certain birds or maybe you just want to know what birds like, okay? So in order to know what birds like, you have to also know what birds there are. So some of the birds that you might see are the cardinal, there are bluebirds, we have blue jays, there are chickadees, which in my opinion are the bravest birds I've ever seen, robins, and there are orioles, among other birds. Now, I am not an expert with birds. I don't know how many of these birds you might actually see, because I think robins are kind of a harbinger of spring. They let us know that spring is here. So you might not see robins, but we definitely see cardinals, and we definitely see chickadees and blue jays, okay? Now one thing you got to make sure is you got to watch out for the squirrels, because squirrels also like the same kind of foods that birds do, and they will just take over, and they'll even scare away the birds if you don't make sure that, you know, whatever you have your bird feeder is away from squirrels. However, squirrels they're actually pretty smart, or at least they're very, very persistent in trying to get food, so it might be kind of a struggle to do that, all right? Now, the recording part is also important, so you're going to want to make yourself a journal like this to write down in that, you know, what kind of food did you put out, and what kind of birds did you see, and how many of them do you see throughout the day, okay? And that'll bring you to an understanding of what the birds like. You'll have a better understanding of maybe what exact time in the morning they're going to come to your house. And then you just keep making more and more of these over the winter. You might even see a change in the types of birds that you see over the course of the winter. And that's part of scientific observation. And this is what scientists do all the time. They decide that they want to learn more about something, and they watch it and they record information about that so that they can look back on those ratings to see if there's any patterns over time, because that's really what science is seeing patterns over time and being more or less certain that those patterns are going to continue into the future. Well, thank you, friends, for joining me today for Science Explorers. We've had a great time. I hope that you have a chance to get out there and make some observations of birds. We would like to thank National Grid for sponsoring this program, and until next time, friends,